Mark Bullock, BMA Biotech.
All right, our favorite gentleman from over the pond doing business here in the United States. Of course, I'm not giving away anything. His accent will give that away very quickly. I've had several emails, by the way, from people asking about if you're really from England. Where are you from in England?
A place called Worcester. It's where the sauce is made.
Where the source? What's that? What's the source?
Well, Worcestershire sauce.
Oh, the
It's
sauce. Oh,
yes, that horrible stuff.
well, that stuff's pretty popular. And you can't have a Bloody Mary without it.
Yeah, I grew up literally about 10 minutes away from the actual manufacturing place, and I smelt that every day for 16 years, and that was enough.
I don't think people understand that that's an actual city and that's an actual thing. Like, it's just people think it's just a word or the name of a family, I think.
Oh no, it's actually a city. So Worcester is about 200-ish miles north of London, but it's the county seat of Worcestershire. So the sauce is actually made on Wilds Lane in Worcester.
Oh, I think this is fantastic. See, this is the kind of experts we bring here on the Crude Life. Not only do we know about, remediation and cleanup, but we also know about steak sauce.
Yeah, I mean, in fact, the sauce was actually made as a beer originally.
Oh, you're kidding me. That was a beer?
Seriously, so how it came about was back when Britain had such a large empire. A British Army officer had contracted Mr. Lee and Mr. Perrins, who were chemists, to formulate a new beer recipe so he could take it to India with him, because he wanted to take a British ale with him. It didn't quite work out the way they thought, so they shoved it in the back of a storeroom for about 10 years and totally forgot about it. And then 10 years later, they unearthed it again and were like, oh, I wonder what it can do now. And that's how Lee and Perrins were born. There were two very renowned chemists at the time as well.
There's some amazing courage in this world, because if somebody brought me something that was in a back room for 10 years, I would probably not be the first one to try it.
No, but back then I think it was a lot different to what we see now, when it was, you made something, it lasted forever, sort of mentality. There was no such thing as refrigeration. So, what it was basically a box with ice in, which went and got your ice per day.
No, that's a good point, because there was not refrigeration, so there was a lot more preservation in root cellars and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
I mean, like when you look at, I was going to bring up the example of, I think it was 5 or 6 years ago, it might have been 10 years ago, but they found some honey that was 10,000 years old that was still edible. And
Yeah.
one of the Egyptian, pyramids and things like that. So it's amazing that they've got natural preservation methods and all that. But anyway, okay, well, all right, from beer to sauce. Let's get down to Texas now and some of your business happenings down there. What's going on in your world? You guys have been really busy lately.
Yeah, so we're starting to pick up a lot more new accounts. It seems a lot more people are coming around to our way of thinking, and they're also now seeing the benefit of the product. The flow assurance and also our cleanup products. So, it's nothing to complain about. Just a little less time than we used to have, basically. Which is all good.
Well, what are you hearing from some of your customers? I mean, I know what I hear about what your products are doing. But, what are you guys hearing? Your business is picking up. You guys are expanding clients in terms of size and everything like that. So this, by the way, for those people who are maybe joining for the first time, I take for granted, that everybody's listened to our couple interviews before then. But we should remind people that you're in the cleanup business because it organically happened within your company to where your customers came to you and said, can you help us with this? Because this is a problem where other companies are not up to snuff. They're not up to par like you guys are. We should probably remind people about that real quick. So give me a quick, elevator pitch, 30 seconds or 60 seconds of that background about that, and then how that brought into your current evolution of business.
Okay, so, as I've told you countless times before, so we started off in a complete different industry to the oil and gas. sector, and then were approached to basically develop a new type of chemical which is biodegradable and non-toxic and non-flammable. From there, we obviously, designed this new product, which took a little bit of time to obviously get people to come to our way of thinking. But then once the merits of the product was seen on its own, we've got YouTube videos and everything else. People were just applying it to other applications, because originally we designed it for pipeline remediation. But they were saying, well, it was too expensive to use for soil washing. Is there a way we could make a product for that? So that's basically where we got our other products from, is we had got customer feedback that they really wanted to use our product, but it was just too costly for certain applications. So we then went back to the drawing boards, looked at what we were using within the product, looked at what we could cut down, so to speak, and then basically produced a whole oil field chemical range off of one main product. Now we've got, I think it's 12 products in the oil and gas industry range. And then from there, we were getting customers saying, well, we've actually been, we've employed a company to do a cleanup who hasn't done it correctly. Obviously, not only do you also do the cleanups. So we then created an environmental services division to basically help our customers out when they, do have a spillage that needs cleaning up. So not only are they getting a world-class product from us, they're also getting a world-class service, because, we've brought in a lot of people who have got countless years of experience in the industry, on all sides, to basically enhance our clients' experience when they use our company.
How's that going, by the way? Because I think, to me, that's probably the interesting part of the story. It might bore other people, but I think that is the part that people want to hear about, is how you're organically growing this side of your business because of demand. So many people out there are trying to create their own demand, and what you're doing is you're reacting to the signs and the words out there, and I'm doing the same thing, and so of course I'm very, very attuned to it and very aware of it. And in my business, what we call that is, changing the oil in your car while you're going 60 miles an hour down the interstate.
Yeah. I mean, I was actually listening to your multimedia cafe earlier when you were talking to Jack Hamlin from Colorado Energy Strong. I was just listening to, obviously, this new Senate Bill 181 they've just passed, which seems to be like a death nail in the coffin to the oil and gas industry in Colorado. It really seems that way. But then when you look at the reasons behind what has led to that bill coming about, is basically there are companies within the industry who, rightly or wrongly, have misrepresented what they can do and what their products can do, who have then sold it on to the operators who have, for whatever reasons, have thought, we're going to use this company because they've got this product. And then people have, either, they've contaminated the ground even further from, the use of these products, and it just gave the industry a bad name. So that's where we've come in, is that we've got this product which genuinely is, 100% biodegradable. And people are now starting to throw that term around, that, our chemical is 100% biodegradable. But then the question is, are they really 100% biodegradable? We've had an instance where we asked a company on a public social media forum, when they'd posted pictures of their new product, and said, okay, it's biodegradable, but what standard did you use? There are obviously various testing standards you have to follow. And to determine the biodegradability of a chemical, there's like 150 different ways to categorize that. And that company / person in particular, blocked me on the social media platform. It's, and then tried to rubbish my name and say, oh, this guy doesn't know what he's on about. And it's like, unfortunately, the oil and gas industry are given a bad name because, not necessarily because of the operators or what the operators are doing. It's sometimes down to the fact that service companies are genuinely just thinking that, the industry is a cash cow for them. Not many companies look at them like that, but some do. And that's where it gives companies like mine the space to maneuver in and say, okay, you've got X product here which is costing you, I don't know, $75 a gallon. Okay, when you use that product, you can only use it in a 50% concentration, nothing lower. So that's basically you're paying $37.50 per gallon end user cost. That's without labor costs. But it's claiming that it's cleaning your soil up, that you just spilt all this oil over in days. Then they make false claims about what it can actually do. I think we've spoken about this before, where one company's toting the fact that their product turns crude oil into sand. There is nothing on this planet that turns crude oil into sand in that short space of time. It's scientifically impossible. Where we come along and say, actually, our product doesn't do that. What our product does is it encapsulates the oil itself and brings it off the substrate and prevents it from rebinding on the substrate after we've removed it. So we've designed not just the chemical, we've also designed a machine that we can put our chemical, the contaminated soil and oil through, and it separates out into 3 different ways. So we get clean soil on one side, recycled oil in the other, and then the product in another that we can actually recirculate and reuse.
Just listening to you talk a little bit, I was thinking of my own memories, of course, and one of the reasons why this platform, I believe, works so much within the oil and gas industry, and we've talked about this before, where there's not a lot of chuck and jivers out there. Chuck and jiver is a term that I got from, back when I was a kid. I'm going to date myself here. There was a show called WKRP in Cincinnati, and it was from the 70s, and I was I was still not even a teenager in the 70s. I was still under 10 years old, and there was a sales guy by the name of Herb Tarlick, and he had this jacket that was just salesy, and that's one of the things I appreciate about what you're trying to do is like you're almost trying to overcorrect from the Herb Tarlicks out there and the Chuck and Drivers, is that you understand that the energy industry is a serious business and so much of our lives revolve around it that it almost irritates you to the point to where you want to make a difference because you don't want people to be sucked into it, because, you've got a history with the industry. Your family has some roots in the industry. And so you get that. And to me, that's what I like about this, because I do the same thing. I like I said, I'm a little aware of this to where I actually wrote down on my bathroom mirror 3 years ago, excuse me with my pronunciation, 3 years ago when we changed our business model to where we went non-political and decided to get more towards, the long format interviews and really reach with people on a new level. Short-term gain versus long-term pain. And that is very well apparent. What we wanted to do is we wanted to come back and be able to say to people, we can look at you in the eyes and be perfectly fine with what we're saying. That's what I feel like you're trying to do, is like you're trying to overcorrect, like, you're not trying to just get a quick buck here. You're trying to say, listen, we want to do business long term here. Am I off on that or not?
No. I mean, you are completely spot on. We are not in there just to come into the industry for a few years to make a few $100 million and disappear into the night and leave a trail of wreck and ruin. We are there for the long haul, where we're saying, right, don't just look at us as another environmental services company. Look at us like a partner where, if you spill crude oil for whatever reason, or you contaminate the ground, you haven't got to worry that it's not going to be cleaned up correctly. That you can pick up the phone, give us a call, and we'll have someone on site who will first evaluate the spill and the level of contamination, and then basically draw up a robust and effective action plan to clean that up at the most cost-effective means. And then when you do your secondary testing to confirm that everything's cleaned up, you haven't got to worry that what we've done is just wash it deeper down into the subsurface. We've actually removed that crude oil or the E&P waste from the soil. I had a phone call the other day from a raw material supplier who said, hey, hydrogen peroxide is the greatest thing ever to clean up crude oil. It's, it makes everything biodegradable. And I was like, really? Okay. So talk me through this. How does it make it biodegradable? Oh, well, it disappears within 35 days. I was like, yeah, the hydrogen peroxide does, but not the crude oil. Oh, it does, And it's just one of those things where you sit there and you think, if you sit there and listen to what you're talking about, you'll actually realize how stupid you really sound. And people, unfortunately, operators get sucked into it because, Colorado is a prime example. They've brought out these new laws to protect, I think their wording is to protect the health, safety, welfare, the environment, and the wildlife resources of Colorado, which, yes, agreeable, it needs to happen, but it needs to happen in moderation, not out and out banning the whole industry from the state, just saying, right, you've got to be a bit more responsible in who you employ to clean up that mess or who you employ to design that pipeline or whatever, and that's where we come in is we're like, we're not just here for 5 minutes. We are here for the long haul, the whole duration, and we have nothing to hide.
Who's your customer these days? I like to ask people that, because the oil industry is pretty diverse, but at the same time, it's extremely specific. So for those people that, might be listening to this interview and like what you are talking about, but not sure how they can help. Maybe they might know somebody, or maybe they are somebody. Who's your direct customer?
So our original market focus was on operators. Sell our product direct to operators like every other chemical company in the industry. However, what we found was being a new company in such a wide-reaching industry, it was very hard to penetrate. So then we refocused on distributors. So we started on the distributor level, who we still sell to, but most of them are under white label private agreements. So you could already be using our product, but actually not know about it. Then we also sell direct to service companies who deploy it in the field, again, under their own name. And sometimes we sell direct to operators. So we focus our efforts now on selling to distributors, service companies, and the operator.
Kind of winding down here a little bit, just thinking of some last thoughts. What are some things that you want people to take away from what you are offering right now at this place in your business's existence, if you will?
Yeah, so basically, we are a full-range chemical company with a complement of an environmental division that are focused on providing our clients long-term, sustainable, and cost-effective solutions to, reduce the effects, the negative effects on the health, safety, and the environment overall.
All right, let's get some contact information, how people can get in touch with you, etc.
Okay, so people can either reach out to us directly online at our website at www.bmabiotech.com, or they can send us an email to info@bmabiotech.com, or they can call us directly on 832-886-4867.